on a sistership. Oh, yeah, we on a sistership. Roll with us, we on a sistership. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about sistership. Me and I roll with y'all. We're my sisters, we got this sisters. You roll with me and I roll with y'all. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk. We on a sistership.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, good morning. Whatever time you decide to take a listen, we appreciate you. We welcome you here. We are talking today and trying to figure out if we know whether we're dependent, codependent, independent, or even understand interdependence.
And with us today, we have June and we have Tony, and we're going to talk about Sherry's topic. So go ahead.
We are going to talk about or get a better, clearer understanding of what those entail. Someone that's dependent, someone that's codependent, someone that's independent, and interdependence. Mm-hmm. So this conversation and topic could mean a whole lot to a whole lot of different people. I've had a conversation where people say that there's no different definitions. So I'll say that there's not necessarily different definitions as much as there's different understandings of what certain things mean. So to be dependent upon somebody, we understand that to be dependent upon somebody, you are looking for them to support you in more ways than one, whether it's emotional, physical, financial, and it doesn't have to be a marital relationship. You can be dependent upon your mom, your dad. You could be reliant and dependent upon your sibling or a good friend or someone that you believe is a good friend, family member. We also talk about codependence. That's needing. I don't actually, that's the one that, like, it sounds okay that you should be able to be codependent, but that's basically having two dependent people in one relationship that may not work, because when you're dependent on somebody, you're kind of clingy and kind of needy. Then we have the independent person. The independent person is not a bad thing, but sometimes we could become so overly independent that we kind of dull the other person around us, the other relationships around us down in order for us to stand up. Sometimes they say we too strong for ourselves. I've had men say that women are so independent that they don't need a man. They are the man in their relationship. That's so disrespectful in its entirety. Then you have the interdependent person. But usually it takes an interdependent relationship in order to make you an interdependent person. And for those that don't know the meaning of interdependent, I understand the regular definition if you look it up in the dictionary. It is two people mutually supporting one another and the ability to do so. But what I have also added to that is that in an interdependent relationship, in supporting each other and mutually reliant on the support of each other, or dependent, let me continue with the word that it actually entails, dependent upon each other, you keep your independence and you don't dull someone down for it to shine, right? I do a lot of talking in between before we get to this place. So I'm gonna ask you ladies to all join in. If you have something to say, a better understanding. June, you was helping me out with the understanding of codependence.
Yeah, so, I think with codependence, one person in the relationship is putting the needs, the wants, the emotional feelings ahead of their own. When everything that one person in that codependent relationship does is not for themselves, but for somebody else, that's codependency. And then you mix other things with it, like an independent narcissist. You know what I mean? Like having to be codependent when the person you're with is a narcissist, constantly gaslighting. I mean, all of being in a codependent relationship has so many secondary mental health issues. And even somebody who enters a codependent relationship, they don't go in wanting that to happen. That's not something that they want, but it's something a narcissist makes them feel like that's what they need to do to feel good about themselves. And that is not any relationship anyone should ever be in, ever. Interdependent is the most positive of all the four, dependent, codependent, and what was the independent? So first of all, I want to go back to being independent. Tiffany, earlier you said you were too independent. My feeling on that is that there's no such thing. You keep being you, because the right person, friend, boyfriend, it doesn't matter who they are in your life, that's when they're going to support that. They're going to support that, and that's being interdependent. They're going to support your independence. They're going to go, okay, but then, of course, the independent person, now they have somebody in their life, there's some things that they're going to figure out over time in that relationship that, oh, I am dependent on that person a little bit, but they never had to be before. But some of those little things, oh yeah, you don't mind picking up dinner? Okay. But before you were like, I got my dinner, I'm going to do this. But then somebody comes into your life, whether it's a friend or a boyfriend, and they say, oh no, I got dinner. You're going to be okay with letting some of that independence slip away. And that's just going to naturally happen when you have a really great interdependent relationship.
Right.
And I feel like that's how I am with Anthony, my husband now. There are times in our marriage that I have had to be 100% dependent on him. I wouldn't say 100% because my emotional feelings and thoughts, I didn't have to depend on him for any of that. We're very opposite in that way. But, I've had 4 back surgeries over the last 5 years. I needed him to get me. He didn't even bring me to the grocery store. He just went, But then, I needed more than him during these times, that I was in a wheelchair, that I couldn't walk. So then my mother-in-law would come in. And honestly, when she's here, it's the 3 of us working together. My biggest thing was staying out of their way and not being, not stopping them from doing what they're here to help me do. Because there's also that sense of, okay, there are some times where you're going to need to ask for help. As long as you don't continue to rely on that dependency, when you're past that hurdle, that's when things will be okay. Because, me and my husband, as soon as I was ready after my back surgeries, I was in the game. I was ready to go. Like, I didn't want to be dependent on anybody. And that's when I think sometimes being dependent on somebody can be okay. When you can snap out of it, go back to yourself and realize, okay, there's me back here. It's not just all about them, Even with my kids, we have an interdependent relationship. My 7-year-old knows boundaries. She knows, okay, mommy may not work, but this is time that I have set aside in the day for myself. And we rely on each other for that, to have that time. But that's
I want to definitely jump in on that. Interdependence also encompasses balance. So that doesn't mean that because, for example, you said, June, you had back surgeries, that at this point in time in the relationship, you are a little bit more dependent on your husband percentage wise. So dependence doesn't mean, 100 all of the
Right,
time.
right.
It means that, you got me, I got you. And there are times when I have to give a little bit more, and there are times you have to give a little bit more and a little bit less, because I don't think it's realistic to think that we're equal all the time.
Right. Yes.
But interdependence really encompasses that balance.
Completely agree. It's a great point.
Go ahead, Tiffany.
I'm just listening to what you all are saying there, and you're right, June, when you said when I find the right match, we will depend on each other, and there wouldn't be an issue. What I'm thinking more is, I get independent when I'm with someone who, you want to be dependent on them, but their actions say something else. So that's when I think that the independent comes in, and I'm like, you know what? I'll just take care of it myself. I'll just do this, where it shouldn't feel that way, like
Right,
you're
right.
battling. So if you are battling in that situation where it's like, okay, you ask someone to do something and then they don't want to, either you see your facial expression and they really don't want to do it, so you take it on. So then they consider you to be either aggressive, because you're like, you know what, I'll handle it on my own. So to say what June was saying about it, when the right person is there, it won't feel like that battle. The emotional part will be, okay, we fall into line. Right, Sherry?
It's like, okay, definitely, for sure. So those that know me also know that I have to bring the spirituality into it. There's scripture in the Bible that says, us, "O daughters of the gazelle, I charge you not to awaken love before it's time." So sometimes we get into relationships and they become so unbalanced because we're not supposed to be in those relationships. We could get into a relationship with anyone and they not be emotionally available for us. They're not physically available. They're not interested in being in a relationship. But sometimes some of us hear what it is that we want to hear. We don't necessarily listen to understand as much as we listen to respond. Right? So a lot of times you hear people say that some women are just too independent for their own good. They're too strong. Well, there was a point where women had to be strong and they had to be independent, no matter what their nationality was, especially during wartime.
Yes.
Wartime, the husbands were away at war and the wives had no choice but to go out and get work in order to continue to support their family, because it's not like the military, no disrespect intended. And for those of you that have and are serving our country and have served our country, I thank you. But you know better than anyone else that they don't pay y'all a whole lot of nothing for the kind of work that you give and the service that you provide. So, you have the wives that where the men were being drafted and they was pulled out there and they women had to go out to work. Then you have the communities where in order to get help, there couldn't be a man in your household unless he was also giving up his freedoms and rights. And so a lot of people have found that all women, and this is a conversation that has taken place with me with several people, all women would rather not have a man in their house and have financial aid from the government.
And that's not true.
And the way I explained it to them, it wasn't that they would rather have food stamps, or they'd rather have housing, or they'd rather have medical. They'd rather be able to take care of children that unfortunately some men aren't able to provide at that moment, for whatever the reason may be. Their concern wasn't whether you would be in the house and be comfortable. Their concern was how well will they take care of their kids. So then it got to the place where the men were out of the home and the women were independent. You had single moms that are taking care of their kids. They got to a place where they were so strong that sometimes they don't know how to step back into their pink and fluffy self. We don't always get that privilege. Now, an interdependent relationship, could that provide that? Absolutely. Because where I may rely on you and depend on you, I had a conversation with June a little earlier and I explained it. She's a military lady, where in the military, you are taught to depend and rely so that you can protect one another, right? So they teach you that. They teach you how to be interdependent, because you need to be able to rely on the soldier that sits next to you, or on the other side. However, they also need you to know how to survive on your own. If you are in a situation where you are left on your own, you have to be able to survive. So interdependently, you have to be able to do that. And unfortunately, everybody doesn't see that.
Can I make a point about something you said, like maybe a minute ago? You were talking about how, some women don't want men in the home so they can get government.
No, it wasn't the men. The men were saying that women don't want men in the home so that they could get assistance.
Do you know what's crazy? And then you were talking about how, so even if a woman went out and got the same exact job as the man, we still would not be making the same amount of money.
Absolutely
and we might
not.
still need help. Depending on the job, we would still need help. Even if we went out into the workforce, we still, on average, and it's nuts because it's 2021, make less than a man for almost every job. And it drives me. So a woman who goes out and let's say makes $20,000 a year versus a guy who makes $30,000, they would still need help. But a man wouldn't, because they're making money even though they're doing the same job.
You also can be on a job and a man could keep his position because you and him could have the same position, right? And they may pay him a little extra because they say he has a family to support.
Right.
As if your work means that you're not supporting anyone other than yourself. I mean, it's kind of like it puts you in a situation so that this is where dependency comes in, codependency comes in, and independence comes in. Very few people even know that the word interdependent happens to have a definition to it. But if we all were in interdependent relationships, we would be likely in long-standing, long-term relationships, those that actually meet us till death do us part. The friendships that are unconditional and truly unconditional, right? So there's a difference between being in an interdependent relationship with a friend or a sibling or a relative. It's definitely a difference. You find that if you look at yourself and you look at the group of people that you are socializing with and you are associating with, you will find that there is one or two of those four that we identified in a relationship. It's very less likely to see the interdependency in outside of a true like a intimate relationship.
Right.
You're less likely to see that, but can it exist? Absolutely. Absolutely. Like when I was married, I lost my independence and I became dependent. And then when I got divorced, I had to figure out who I was all over again because I became dependent upon someone else for my emotional, my financial, my spiritual needs. Even to the permission of, asking permission as to, you mind if I go here? You mind if I do this? And now, then when you separate and you decide that you're going to do it differently, then you have to find your independence again.
So what made
Um,
you, Sherry, I'm sorry, what made you lose your independence? And
because I was when I was when I was in my marriage, I also have 3 children.
Mhm.
So I was a daughter, a aunt, a wife, a mom, a friend. Um, I guess I gave to everyone where that codependent part comes in. You give so much of yourself to other people that you have nothing left for yourself. And
So
then and you don't usually find that out until you, like I was on my own. I was devastated. I literally had to learn how to pull myself up by the bootstraps. I didn't have the strong women around me that was teaching me different. I didn't grow up with a group of people around me that gave me advice. My examples were horrible. Were horrible. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm alone a lot. I'm not lonely. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely.
Was he happy with that with you? Was your ex-husband happy when you all were in the relationship? Was he happy with the fact that you were so dependent on him?
I think I think what ends up happening is and not only do we lose ourselves, but we lose who that person may be attracted to.
Well,
Remember
definitely.
when you
But
met,
did he like it though? Did he like the fact that you depended on him? Did he like that?
I think at first when the dependency started,
Uh-huh.
but I think at some point he kept trying to find who he was attracted to.
Okay.
Remember, he wasn't attracted to a dependent person.
Right.
He was attracted to an independent person. I knew who I was, I knew where I was going, I had my goals and my dreams, and I was aiming for them.
so do you think if you had to change from from being independent to what he wanted, it would still be the same?
I think one of the things that was more confusing than anything is I don't think he knew what he wanted.
Okay.
And because he didn't know, that's the part about losing yourself. Where you have your goal should be interdependence in any relationship. Because when you lose yourself, now you got to figure out. So, like I tell people all the time, um, I'll go out. I'm gonna go sit at a restaurant if I want breakfast. If I want to have a sit down, I'll sit down with myself. If I want to go to a movie, I will go into the movie theater by myself. I'll have dinner, a lunch, go shopping. I'm independently finding out what I like, what I don't like, who I want to be around, who I don't want to be around, what I will tolerate, what I won't tolerate. I like having my queen size bed, not only because I'm a queen, but if I want to sleep with books, I don't have to
Or
move.
your computer or your laptop?
But if I feel like laying across the bed, I can. Um, does that mean that I feel like I don't need a companion in my life or a spouse at some point? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that in the process of this, I'm learning to like myself. If I can't like me and be alone with me and be with myself, who the hell else wants to be with me? If I decide that I don't want to go to the restaurant because I don't like the way I look sitting by myself, who gonna want to sit with me? So I think that we grow, and if we don't grow together, we grow apart. I think sometimes we get to a place of confusion or perplexion, depending on who's listening. Um, I think the independent person that I was a little bit more edgy and spicy. And then I became a mom and I backed down. I became a wife. I didn't understand what submissive meant. I was overly submissive. And I think sometimes that too, not knowing what you have, or not knowing how to do something, or not having the right direction and guidance around you could really mess you up. So when I decided that I was going to talk about, are we dependent, codependent, independent? If I decided what I wanted to, when I decided to talk about that, I actually realized that there's a lot of people that don't know what interdependence is. And so I asked you, Tony, when you looked it up, because the first thing came to your mind, remind us what you told us earlier.
Okay, I certainly will.
Came
At
up.
first, when I got the call that you all wanted me to come and discuss this, I said, okay. And I asked Stefania what the topic was, and she said, dependence versus interdependence. And I said, you mean codependent versus dependence? And she said, no, interdependence. I said, these ladies don't know what they're talking about. And I looked it up. I said, oh, they know what they're talking about. So it was really interesting that when I looked it up, and as I said to you earlier, and I'm reading it because, as you get a little older, you got to write things down.
That's right. Okay.
But I loved what it said. It said, opposed to addicted to a partner, you appreciate one another's existence and the characteristics of an interdependent relationship. And this includes romantic relationships, as you spoke about, friendships, siblings, parents, whomever, relationships, period, across the board. Active listening, healthy boundaries, taking time for personal interests. So you talked about that, June. You also touched on that, Sherry. Someone who is interested in you, clear communication, taking responsibility for one's behaviors and emotions. So say you do walk into a room and your light is shining so bright and the person wants you to dim it a little bit. You talk to them about it, or you communicate with your significant other about it, and one or both take personal responsibility for behaviors and emotions. Creating safety for one another to be vulnerable. That was my favorite one. I put a star by it. Creating a safe space for one another to be vulnerable, because I believe vulnerability is the key of deepening a relationship with anybody, whether it be a friendship or a spouse or mother, father, parent, sibling, anybody. So creating safety for one another to be vulnerable, because when you really know you can be vulnerable and that vulnerability will not be weaponized against you, that is a beautiful thing. And that can be so satisfying and so deepening and so loving. Engaging and responding to one another. You touched on that, Sherry. Listening, not to respond, but to understand and to hear one's point of view. Being open and approachable with not only your words, but your body language. That is really important. And not being afraid to say no. And not keeping parts of yourself hidden to please your partners.
Mm.
And then finally, and I put 2 stars by both of these, a safe bond. We talked about that earlier. And someone who's mutually dependent. So I love that you brought this concept of interdependency into the conversation, because that's a healthy relationship. That's a relationship that I want going forward with anybody that I deal with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you.
What I'd like to say is, with the sistership, we are interdependent, right? We all have our own lives going on. We all have different businesses that we're running, but we also rely on each other. In other words, it's kind of like networking to bring everybody together, but respecting each other's boundaries. So when we are, when we have the different meetings, it's not, okay, you have to be here at this time. It's who can do the show and who can't do the show, and we all cover for each other. So, for instance, today Stefania was supposed to be on with us, and she had an emergency. So the first thing we said is, you go take care of that emergency, and we'll cover you and take care of it, because that's most important. So that's the interdependency of the sistership. Is we have this bond where we come together to network, to inform each other of what's going on, and strengthening our own businesses at the same time, because we're all networking together. So that's what I look at when we talk about interdependent, because I always say we can't do it alone. And in order to grow, you need that interdependency of everyone else to come together in order to make something happen. So if you think that you can do it alone, then that becomes an issue, because you can't get too far alone. We all need each other.
Well, I mean, you're going to have those that think that they can do better and more without you, or they feel they hindered. Narcissistic people are toxic people, but the world in their eyes revolves around them. So those narcissists could also be considered super independent, that believe that they need no one and they can continue to function.
Or there's enough money and they don't need anybody. That's another bad point to have, because a lot of times I said, well, am I doing this wrong? Because I don't look at the money issue first, because that's not what makes it, you know. But then again, you have those people who, because of the money, they feel like they don't need anybody else around them because they can pay anybody to do it. And I don't think that's the right way to look at stuff.
There's also the way a person loves, right? So Dr. Gary Chapman has a book, The 5 Love Languages. So if you go into a bookstore right now, it's not just for intimate relationships. It's for every kind of relationship you could imagine. So when I say I love you because you're my friend, or I say I love you because you're my sibling, or I say I love you for whatever the reason I tell you that I love you, I need to know how you love. Because as much as I'm showing how I love, or
Where is our Nikki?
in the kitchen. Sorry. You have to know how someone receives love, right?
You got to be interested in how they receive love too.
Well,
Yeah.
you could, because you know what, as a friend, if I'm your friend, there's times that we feel that we're in a friendship and we giving more of ourselves than we are receiving, right? So at that point, resentment builds. That's just like,
we have to remember too, people can't read our minds though. You
right.
know?
But those are things that's a part of the process.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to take away from your independence by expectations, right? We have expectations. I don't expect more of you than I expect of myself to be able to give. But if I don't learn about you, if I don't talk to you, if I don't communicate with you, I could be a codependent friend, right? I have people in my life where I'm always doing for them. Always. And they rely on me for many, many things. But when I need someone, because I'm considered independent and strong, I don't always have somebody I can go to. So is that my independent person, my dependent person, my codependent person, my interdependent person? I'm not sure, but that's why we
there are
get
many
together.
parts of us. So there are many there are many sides to each of us. There are many parts of us, you know. Sometimes you feel maybe you are dependent, maybe you are interdependent, or being interdependent, or maybe you are being codependent. You know, we have many parts. Nothing is absolute and no one is absolute, and neither are the whole of us. I think we play those roles in different scenarios.
Right. So here's how I took sociology, and I'm trying to remember how they described it. Think of yourself as a whole pie when you're born. That's you. You haven't taken on any role in life but being a little baby, right? And then you know, you become a sister or a brother, then you're a daughter, and then you become a mother, and then you become, let's say you're a lawyer, then there's that role of being a lawyer. You got all these slices of pie with all these different roles that you have taken on in your life. And as you get older, there's a point where it gets, and you have all of these different roles: mother, wife, sister, you know, and all of a sudden some of that goes away. The role as a mother, your kids don't need you anymore. What happened to that slice of pie? It's not like
So
they can give it back to you. You got to start over. You got to bake a whole new pie and start fresh. You know what I mean? Because they already took that piece of you from before. You got to think ahead. You got to make a whole new self and figure it out from there. And sometimes starting from scratch is the only way some people can go after being codependent for so long. And I had a friend that was exactly like that. And she wasn't married for 25 years. She was married for 10 years. But she was very codependent on this man, or dependent on this man. And when their marriage ended, she goes, I'm not a wife anymore. I said, okay, so that leaves a whole space in that pie that you can fill in of you becoming independent again. So start baking. That's what I would tell her. That's what I would say. You got to start from scratch. Start from scratch. Bake that whole new pie. I didn't even live with a guy. I owned my own house. I was very much the too independent, or, you know, sometimes they say too independent. But some people are willing to accept that part of somebody, and some others aren't.
Listen,
You
we're
know?
sitting here, and
That's
I got Mama C behind me listening in here, and she's like itching to say a couple words.
Please come on through. Come through.
Sometimes we have to, you know, let her talk a little bit, because she's like, this conversation
Absolutely.
is excellent.
Where's she at? Where is she?
Come through. Come on
She on the
through.
side, look, she on the side here talking about, move on over. Let me let her squeeze on over here so you can see her. Hold on. Go ahead.
Come through.
Using one computer.
Okay, I'm going in here with the truth, okay? She said, come on, Mama C. I know you got something to say. So she got me in here. I said, Tiffany, and you know, I'm not prepared to be on air tonight. But she said, yes, you are. I threw on a little lipstick and here I am.
That's all we need.
That's all we need. And I think that, you know, the bottom line when it comes to who we are and how we interact with other people plays a big role based on the level of confidence we feel, how we feel about ourselves. You know, I think we've all been in each one of those spots at one time or another. When we're young, we're dependent. And sometimes that dependency only carries on throughout and into our adulthood. And until we realize, hey, I got this, you know, but you got to figure out, well, how do I have this? So then you look at, you know, becoming, connecting with other people. But in the process, I think sometimes we tend to become codependent. Now, I've never really had that opportunity because I was married for 2 months, you know, so that doesn't make a difference. But I was always independent, and I learned in the process to be interdependent. And I think I heard one of you say that that's the healthy way to be. It's true. Being interdependent really means that we depend on each other when it is necessary. And if it's not necessary, we don't piggyback on others or ride the wave with other people, expecting them to save us. Because you know what the bottom line is? Nobody can save us. And we have to learn to be the interdependent human beings we are. But I think being interdependent depends a lot on the level of confidence, the level of self-esteem, the level of security we feel with ourselves and our ability to have healthy relationships with other people.
Right.
So, you know, I mean,
Agreed.
there's just so much that comes into play with this whole process of being at one point dependent, then moving on and becoming codependent, and then at some point realizing that codependency is not a healthy way to live.
At all.
It kind of takes away our power, and in that taking away of power, it brings us to a place where our self-esteem is negatively impacted. And I think that self-esteem is so important to the process of having relationships with other people and feeling good about those relationships. I know for me, I want to feel good about my
Me
relationships
too.
that I have with other people. I don't want to feel like I can't live without them. I don't want them to be codependent on me because, you know, it ain't that kind of party. And, you know, I just want people to be okay with who they are. But unfortunately, and I think with this era of COVID, it has brought out a lot of mental health issues with people. And so their ability to be interdependent has been blocked by the mental health issues that have creeped up as a result of either being very dependent on somebody else, or, you know, just totally not feeling comfortable with who we are, or where we're going, or how we're going to survive. There's just so much going on now. And I think that, you know, mental health is I would say the #1 challenge that we're all facing right now. And I think that if we become serious about our mental health, then all the other aspects of our lives can come together, you know, and until that point, you know, I don't even know what to say, because we're going to run into so many people with mental health issues and challenges, and how to deal with them will depend solely on how we deal with ourselves, where we
I
are.
want to chime in on that one, Mama
Okay.
C. I love that. Yeah, I just recently, Tiffany will tell you all, I just recently took 2 months off, over 2 months off
Wow.
for a mental health break.
Yeah.
I had to take it down. I got off of social media. I put a message on social media. I said, I'll get back with you all in the middle of June. I told the Sistahship, please hold space for me, but I'm taking care of my mental health. I really had
We
to.
had you covered.
I know you did. I know you absolutely did. And I just wanted to chime in and say, I totally agree that we have to get our mental health in order for ourselves, in order to share ourselves healthily with someone else.
Absolutely.
And
So
you mentioned,
yeah.
and you mentioned something about power. There's this saying, you only lose your power when you think you don't have any.
Oh,
And when you are in a codependent relationship and all of the other person's needs and wants and everything are met before your own, that's when they're making you believe you have no power.
And
So
truth be told, their needs aren't really being met either.
Right.
They aren't happy. They aren't
no,
happy either.
they're leeches, you know,
Right.
people, they're leeches. They take everything out of you, until
everything.
It's not enough, and nothing is enough.
right, exactly. And it doesn't matter to tell whoever that person is in that relationship how you feel, because it will never matter to them. Somebody in that who relies on somebody who is the person receiving the codependency, like they're the ones whose needs are being met. I'm sorry, I think I just forgot what I was gonna say.
It's
But
okay.
they're the ones.
Join the club, June. That happens all day. I'm like, no, what was I
That
saying?
happens all the time.
So
That
the
happens to me
quote
all the
about
time.
power is actually, women only lose their power when they think they don't have any. And I have been, that has been my Facebook quote since I got Facebook back in 2006. So
Yeah.
And it's something that I'm like, okay, I have to always remember we all have that in us. And we can't let anybody else think that we don't, because that's when we become codependent,
Oh, absolutely.
when we lose that.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll say this. I actually am grateful to the sistership. And the
we're
reason
grateful
I
for
say
you.
that is because the reason I say that is because we get to talk about this and we get to talk about that and we get to heal this and heal that in the process, as the song states, right? That's the theme. That's exactly what the sistership is to do. In the process of it, what we're actually doing is each one teach one.
Yes.
So there was a point that we learned by example. Our first teachers was in our home. And in the process of that, we had learned different things. We didn't learn how to relate in a relationship because we understood. We related by the examples that we were shown. Right? So in it, we learn a lot. But maturity, which is something that a lot of people don't want to give credit for, maturity is huge.
Oh.
They maturity is huge in it because you have to be mature enough to know, right? So you have to be mature enough to want to understand your differences from the people that you're around. You have to be mature enough to know that there's some things about you that you need healing and whole. We are walking wounded. The world is full of walking wounded. And you know, I watch people walk so much with that show, The Walking Dead.
Walking wounded and walking dead.
That is what we are walking around in. We have so many wounds inside of us that cause us not to interlock or become interdependent, or we were taught how to become dependent upon someone. We watched our parents or our relatives around us and how they're treated. And the difference is the group of women that we're teaching now and the group of women that we are relating to and corresponding with, the males too. Like let us acknowledge our male audience. We'll acknowledge our silent audience. We see you. We will validate you and let you know that we heard you. That has a lot to do with it. Like you said, confidence is huge. Self-esteem is huge. But a lot of times we don't realize that it's the energy that we have with each other that is actually making a difference in our life. I feed off your energy. If you're excited, I could walk into a room and I could be all bubbly. And if I walk in and everybody's down, my energy changes to that down.
Absolutely.
If I walk in down and everybody in there is bubbly, I want to be bubbly too.
Yeah.
You know, so we feed off of each other's energy. And a lot of times we don't realize we are doing the same thing. That's just us relating to each other in life. Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you go into work. I know there's many a times that I can get a little upset when I'm at work, and I'll sit at my desk and I'll be mumbling to myself. And my coworkers, when I tell you, they be cracking up and they say, "There she go again. She upset." They got her upset. But the one thing that they do know is that if that situation or any situation comes, I got them. You know, like and that's what I want. I want the people in my world, in my network. You ladies are part of my network. So I actually was listening to June when she said, you know, the word, she was acknowledging that just the word, the power, like your power was given. She had a statement that she shared with us. And I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself, wow, you know, there's so many things that I'm learning. Like Mama C, you turned around and you brought that up. And June brings it up, and she brought it up twice. So, I mean, I had to hear it more than the one time I heard it the first time, right? That means that I was learning. And in the process of it, it was because we were intertwining in conversation, making a conversation important enough to share it. And how it piqued you may not have piqued me that way until the second time I heard it, but I heard it. You know, there's a difference between listening to you and hearing you. I heard you. And I hear the wisdom that comes from you ladies. It's truly helping me. And I'm sure we're helping other people with this. But interdependence is huge in all walks of life. I want my children to have interdependent relationships. I want my grandchildren to walk in that too. I want my friends and my family members to walk in it. It's so important because it's so healthy. Like mental health is huge,
Yes,
but
it
in the
is.
process of the mental health, how healthy, you know, we talk about mental health. The fact that Tony said that she had to take 2 months down. She said, man down, I need a break. If
Hello.
we don't learn to do it on
Good for
our
you.
own,
Your body will do it for you.
Absolutely. And you know, I was talking to Sherry, not to cut you off, but I was talking to someone today, and I said to him, look, if my body says sit down, I sit down. If it says lay down, I lay down. If
Or
it
it'll
says
do
get
it
up
for
and
you.
go to bed, I get up and go to bed. Now I may hang in there a little longer than I should, but once I hear that, get up and go to bed, I'm not going to say it again. When it gets like that, I get up and I go to bed, because our bodies function based on our ability to be obedient to their needs. And I think that when we talk about interdependence, and I don't know if it's been put like this, interdependence is really about reaching out to people to help you do something you don't have the power to do yourself. Okay, that's where we come in with each other. If I can do it, I'm not going to be lazy and give it to you to do because I don't want to do it. No, I will be a responsible and mature enough adult to do what I can do, and also turn to others when there are things that I cannot do or I don't know. I'm always on the internet seeking information. I have somebody who wants me to be a ghostwriter for them. I know some stuff about ghostwriting. However, I don't know everything. So I was on the internet this week looking and checking out different components of it. And it's so important that we're willing to really reach out when we need to reach out, to get the information we need, and to reach out to other human beings who are in our circle, who are willing to help. It doesn't mean we have to go somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Because I know people I would never go to for help, because they're not going to help me, and I already know that. You know, they don't vibe on my level. They're not concerned about me. And I know that. And I think it's very important that we be in alignment with our vibrational energy, because a lot of people are out of alignment. And when you get out of alignment, things start to go really awry. So we have to stay in alignment with our vibrations. And we know when we do that, we know who's for us and who's not for us. Boom. So why try and go to people who are not for you when you need some information or you need help? It makes no sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
I
love
tell
the
you what.
discussion. I'm sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead, June. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, I'm gonna be 37 this year. Learning how to ask for help and who to ask for help are the hardest things that I have tried to master in this journey of life. And I've had to do a lot of it over the last 5 years. How am I going to
how to
ask for
receive
help?
it. How to
Who?
receive it. Yeah. And how
Yeah.
to receive it. How to take
And
it.
graciously.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
receive it graciously.
And
you
not
know?
take it personally when somebody says no, because
Yes.
you don't know what somebody else is going through possibly. So
Exactly.
I had to learn that too, especially going through cancer. I'm a breast cancer survivor. And I remember when I first got diagnosed, I was in the beauty shop. She was getting ready to cut my hair, and a nurse, an oncology nurse, happened to be sitting in the chair next to me. And she said, I want you to gather your tribe, get your folks together, ask for what you need. When you ask somebody and they say no, don't get dismayed. You go to the next yes, because you don't know what somebody else is going through.
Absolutely.
So yes, you have to ask, you have to wait and listen for the answer, and then you have to move on to the next yes if that's a no,
Right.
and not take it personally.
Absolutely.
And I agree with you 100% with that.
And June, don't feel bad. I didn't get to that point until probably my mid to late 50s. Okay. I didn't understand the getting in and fitting in. You know, I just love people, and I love to help, and I want to be a part of, until I learned you can't be a part of everything. You're not supposed to be a part of everything. Trying to get in and fit in is not the way to go, because a lot of those people in that circle you're trying to get in and fit in are doing whatever they can to block you. So there you go. You're kind of lost in the sauce, because now you're trying to do something for yourself, to learn something, to be better than you are. And you got a whole bunch of people, or maybe 2 or 3, who are trying to block you. And so that's unnecessary energy you have to battle. So we have to learn to be where we belong, where we don't have to battle with people. We have to be in our tribe.
Go to where the sun is warm. I've learned to go to where the sun is warm.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think what Sherry was saying is really in tune with what we're all trying to convey to everyone who's watching and listening. You know, you have to pay attention, and you have to be okay with yourself. I heard Sherry say something about she enjoys being by herself. I said that to someone today too. I said, people, you see me out and about, I'm mostly always by myself. And if I'm not, I'm with my daughter. We're going to the store, or we're doing something that is relative to the needs of the family. So, you know, I've learned to love being with me and by myself. And I'm never lonely, never, ever, ever. And I can go into a restaurant and eat and enjoy it and be happy. I can go to a movie like Sherry and sit there by myself and enjoy the movie, eat my popcorn and drink whatever it is I'm going to drink, you know, and be happy. And I think with the process of becoming more interdependent, you've got to love yourself more than you love anybody else, or desire to be around other people. Interdependency is the bomb, okay? It is awesome to be interdependent, because you know you can do it for yourself, but you also know that you're mature enough to ask for help if you need it.
Right. Right.
So, you know, Sherry.
That's exactly what we learned, right? I mean, think about it. June, I believe you're the one that's married amongst us. So.
Twice.
But even the rest of us have been married one time at least.
No, twice.
Twice for you, okay.
2 divorces.
Okay. But I mean, in the process of it, right? You have learned some things about you. Am I correct?
Yes,
like,
a lot.
I mean, I was divorced once. And in that, it's funny because I have conversations with my ex every now and a blue moon. And the one thing that he hasn't been able to say to me is that we did not communicate.
Yeah.
I've always made sure the communication was clear and that it was open, it was honest. And he's made that clear. He, you know, he might not at the moment realized it, but he realized it later.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we get together young. In most relationships, we get together very young for some people, and for others, however they are, but in it, they haven't learned, and we haven't learned how to grow with each other. I say this a lot of times. We need to learn about ourselves so that we could know how to deal with other people that come in. Because I don't need to tell you that red is my favorite color and I like oatmeal, and I don't need to tell you everything that's going on in my life. When you are in an interdependent relationship with anyone, they want to know about you. They're going to ask.
And they're paying attention.
They're going to research it. Oh, I see that she wears red. So is that her favorite color, or does she just happen to have a lot of red clothing?
Right.
So there's a difference in learning about somebody. And I had made mention earlier about the love languages. So we have to learn how someone receives something. So we all learn differently. So we have the audio learners, the hands-on learners, right? Those that have to do it in order to, you could go into a job and
that's me.
Tactile.
I gotta do it.
touch it. You have those that I tell the kids, read it, write it, repeat it. That's how some people learn, right? So we got visual learners that all they just got to do is watch you and they learned it. And that's the same thing that we have to do with any relationship we get in. Just because you said something that I like doesn't mean you're my friend, right?
Yeah.
It just means that you said something I like. And so in that, we have to, don't we end up teaching our children that? We have to eventually teach our children, well, everybody's not your friend. I'm sorry. Well, maybe they wasn't taught how to share. My children make me eat my words quite a bit of times, let me tell you. I used to tell my kids, if you don't respect your house, no one else will. So when you come in, I expect you to follow the rules. You hang up your jacket, you put your book bag on the step for you to gather it on your way up. You don't get to throw it on the floor. You don't get to just do what you want. You still have to follow my rules. And when you're an adult, you'll follow your own. Everybody wasn't raised the same. So I used to teach my daughter that. And she was doing something and I was like, whoa, that's not okay. That's not okay. And she was telling me all about how someone had said or did something and in her place. And I said, but that's not okay. She said, Mom, the only reason I didn't flip out is because you always taught us people aren't the same. They wasn't raised the same. And that's what we end up dealing with, right? So I always wanted to make sure that I got 2 daughters and I got a son. That I didn't want any of them to become dependent upon someone in order to feel like they could survive. Like my son, he could do his own laundry. He knows how to cook. And whatever he's not sure about, he will call his sisters or he will ask me. And Google is a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
YouTube helps, but he can do that. So he can function on his own in his independent way.
How old are your children, Sherry?
I have, my oldest daughter actually is going to be 34 next week.
Get out.
Right. Okay.
34, I have, my youngest daughter will actually be 29 this year.
Get out.
And my son is 27. I got 4 grandchildren and 1 on the way.
Oh, congratulations. That's wonderful. I love when you said, you know, I remember reading an article a long time ago how women, in particular, this article said Black women raise their daughters and love their sons. And I love when women teach their sons like they teach their daughters.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love to hear that. I love that. I love that you take the time to say, yes, you're going to, I don't want you, I'm raising you to be, not to be dependent on other people. I think that is so critical and so important and so wonderful to release these human beings into the world with some skills and not just book sense and book smarts, and
Well,
but with some life practical skills. I love to hear that.
Is my girls again make me eat my words, because when they were younger, and Dad and I split, I didn't realize how much they were watching me. Right? So you really don't never really know who's watching you, who's seeing you, who's relating and using you as their example. So my daughter said to me one day, she said, "Ma, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. You've taught us how to be so strong and independent. This is what you've been teaching us. You didn't let not us girls gossip, and you didn't let my brother gossip. You taught us all, everybody can do basic cooking, and everybody can do cleaning and laundry and taking care of. And yet, it seemed like you fell apart when you and Daddy broke up, you know? Like how you teach us how to be so strong, but yet when it came to Daddy, you were so weak." And I was actually at a loss, like, because it was more of an eye opener. Let's put it that way. So what it did remind me was, you know, in my time where I do my meditation and I pray and I ask God all the time, "Lord, what is it that you would have for me to do? And how would you have me to serve your people? What is it that you would do?" And the one thing that he's always put in front of me is how to relate to others, males and females. Learning how to love you. Teaching each one, teach one is huge to me. But if I have to go spiritual and I go in the Bible, and the Titus 2 woman is supposed to teach the younger woman so that she's not a busybody. We so busy letting the television raise our families right now, and the video games and the these trashy songs that are just like horrible. TikTok has been one of the things.
Who's that? What was that? Oh, no, I don't know.
I'm sorry, guys.
Life goes. That's okay. Life goes. Listen, we are in real time and real life.
In real life, exactly. You know, there ain't no rehearsal here.
Real time and real life. We are a group of working women with families. Y'all see, I'm sitting here I'm trying to make sure y'all see me in the light or whatever. At this point, you know what? It just is what it is. It's okay.
Wait, I heard. You heard TikTok. I said TikTok. Oh no, we on TikTok now. Somebody done brought us to TikTok.
No, we not on TikTok. I said TikTok, and at the point, my door had a knock.
We can swing, share the lead.
Oh, I'm trying to learn that dance.
So and that's the point where you see that they watching, right?
I'm gonna get some therapy as soon as I can.
Even when you watch those TikToks that Tiffany be putting out.
Oh God.
You can laugh a whole lot. Then, you know, like literally, it's those are the kind of things that you see the parents with the little kids. There was one TikTok where the mom was doing it, and she had cut the video because the baby was twerking.
The baby.
She was like, "I did not teach her this."
Exactly. So she grabbed her and picked her up.
I didn't see that one. I didn't see it.
I saw that one. So Tony, you admit you watching TikTok too, right? Because I need an AA club right about now.
Well,
guys.
Listen, I haven't seen that one, and I don't have children, so I haven't cracked the TikTok code yet. So I'm way behind the curve on TikTok.
Some of the stuff that goes on, Tiffany, I'll be sitting there and say, Mom, look at this. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, I haven't cracked that code on so that part of social media just yet.
Everybody is looking for attention. Some of the stuff that they do is so wild.
Yeah.
Like, oh my
I don't even have the app.
You don't have the
I think,
app?
no, I don't on my phone. I think my niece just told me that it was an app. I was like, oh, okay.
Is it an app, Tiffany? Oh, it is an app. Oh, okay. All right.
My niece just told
Sorry,
me. I'm
guys.
like, oh, okay. Well, that's why I don't know it. Don't have it.
I actually don't have TikTok. I have learned to enjoy TikTok through Tiffany. Tiffany posts TikTok, but when I
Tiffany is
saw
the
that with that
culprit.
little girl, it did remind me that even when we don't notice or we think no one is looking, somebody is always watching us.
Somebody's always watching. Exactly.
Well, it's the age of social media. It's the age of information. We are long from the industrial age. We are in the
Oh,
age of information.
we're way into outer space right now.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I haven't seen much of anybody talking about interdependence. So it's fine that we actually brought something out into the space that needs to be taught or
I
learned.
love the conversation. I love it. I really do. I love talking about things that I have to look up and I have to research, and I love it. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
know when I read the characteristics, I said, yes,
Yeah.
that's what I want as I go forward, thinking about relationships and what type of relationship I choose to be in and want to be in.
Right. And that's all relationships. You know what I'm saying? I
Yes.
want to be in an interdependent relationship with everybody in my life,
Right.
wherein I you know,
Right.
they trust me to do what I need to do and not piggyback on them for whatever. And you know, it makes me feel good to know that I can go either way, that I can do what I need to do for me, do what I'm responsible for doing as an adult, mature, spiritually mature woman. And if I need to reach out, I don't have any problems reaching out, because I think the key is knowing who to reach out to. That's what a lot of people don't know. And interdependence, you know, as we evolve, there are going to be more and more things that we learn that we didn't know about 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago. And that's what evolution is all about. That's what growing and becoming our best is all about. Being able to recognize that we evolve and new information that helps us to live better lives comes to the forefront. And I think that that's just wonderful, because I don't want to be stuck where I used to be, because I don't want to change and I don't want to accept that something better, some better information has come into play. I want to be open. I want to have an open mind and an open heart, so that I can receive whatever it is I need to receive to continuously grow and evolve and become my best and highest self.
Hallelujah.
You know,
One thing that's for certain is change.
Ooh,
That is
absolutely.
one thing that is for certain.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people, their biggest, I don't like the word problem, their biggest challenge is to accept and embrace change and figure out where they fit, where they come into play in this process of change.
But don't
we
we learn that people can't change what they don't acknowledge?
Yeah, or accept. You can, even if you acknowledge it, if you don't accept it, you're not going to change, because you're not going to do anything with the information. So,
but I think awareness of your flaws, and my prediction is all of these things are going to get better over the next few generations, because
I agree.
You know, we're a lot more aware about these types of relationships now. Absolutely. Interdependency, dependency, codependency.
Awareness is key.
A lot more aware of these now. Awareness, and so now when we're in it, it's easily identified. Sometimes.
But awareness is key.
Sometimes
I agree
we need
with
help.
you, June.
And that's when interdependency in other relationships, like family members, come into play in helping you when you're in a codependent relationship. Yeah. So just because you have one relationship that's codependent doesn't mean that you're codependent with all of your relationships. And again, those mental health issues come into play with those types of things all the time. But again,
Yeah.
I think over the next few generations, those things, all of that's going to be changed because of awareness.
Absolutely.
You know?
And when
And
we
I hope so.
consciously aware, it changes our lives for the
Mhm.
better. And
Right.
You gonna put her in me? Oh, after she finishes?
I also watched you, June, when you said when your friend was going through something, you was telling her that it's time for her to become independent. Do you know how important it is to have people around you that are your cheerleaders?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, just she probably wasn't even expecting that from you,
Right.
but she was able to receive it because it came from genuineness. Like your heart was real with it. Like it was just kind of like, yeah, girl, now it's time to get your independence. And but you had no ill, it wasn't said with malice at all. It was,
Right.
I honor you as a person. Girl,
Yeah.
now I need you to honor you as a person.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm here for you. I got your back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so huge. That
And
right.
I told her, I said, you may feel like there was so much of you that was lost in this relationship that's ending, but there was still something there that I fell in love with.
Right.
And I said, I can't imagine how much more I'm going to love you when you find a little bit more of that every day. So
Yeah.
cry it out. Let that bad stuff go.
Yeah.
Cry it out. Let it go with the tears, because sometimes it does make you feel good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Out
healing.
there.
Here's the healing.
It's wonderful to watch people evolve and heal from whatever has been soiling their soul, you know. And sometimes people's souls have become so soiled by beliefs and conditioning that are not designed to help them to grow and become their very best. And so I think when we become more consciously aware of where we are in the process of evolving, and understand that our job is to not fight change, not to fight evolving and growing and becoming better, but recognize that we have the power to grow within it all. And
Right.
that's a beautiful thing.
Mhm.
That's a fabulous thing. And you know what? And nobody's perception and nothing anybody says to kind of knock you down makes any difference. You see them for who they are and you keep it moving.
Mhm.
That's it. You see them for who they are and you just keep it moving. You know, at this point in my life, you know, I think a lot of people who are my age are sitting around fossilizing because they don't understand that they still have a tremendous role to play in this life. That's why they
Oh, I
stay.
love that. Fossilizing.
Yeah, fossilizing, and they're growing old. You know, aging,
Love it.
we have no
That
control
is a
over
beautiful word for aging, right?
She said, ooh, fossilizing.
fossilizing. Like, oh my God, they're not doing anything. They don't think they have any more value. You know, they become a certain age, and conditioning has taught them that you're over the hill at a certain age. Are you freaking kidding me? I can't believe that someone would buy into that. But whatever, you've got to make the conscious decision that I'm going to grow with the process of evolution, not try and fight it because that's a no-win battle, and not try and stay stuck in the past because you know that, okay, you want a better future, but what you're doing right now will determine the quality of that future.
Mhm.
The past is gone. What are you doing to make this the present, the gift of the present moment, so valuable that it transforms your future in marvelous ways?
Now, see, I'm gonna jump in here because you know, Mama C and Lady Wisdom, they could talk to the lamppost. Make a lamppost talk to them, right?
It's all right though. Good. They are connecting.
Yes, but never mind.
They
you.
are
Look,
connecting.
guys, we're interdependent on Tiffany to get them to stop talking.
Hello, right? So, because I think we only have a
Listen,
couple.
Mama C and Sherry, it's all right.
Yes, it is.
It's
Yes.
all
Listen, I was
right.
actually about to round us up, but Tiffany want to come on here and talk about we can text a lamp post.
Yeah,
Right? So I could go to the store with either the two of them, right? And we have a whole tribe behind us of women.
I believe it. I believe it. And it's all
I'm the
good.
background, right? Because I do all the technical stuff, all the promos and Steph-Fire, Steph-Fire too, she get on here, she can talk to lampposts. And Joe, you do pretty good yourself, right? Well, we gotta wrap it up.
Okay.
all right.
Because we
We
got
do.
other shows to do. But what I want to say is the Sistahship is gonna begin a program where we will sponsor a business and they can send in their business cards. And once a month, we will pick a winner and we will talk about their business on the show.
Love that.
Not only are we a part of helping other people, but what we want to do is get other businesses out there. And when we started the Sistahship, the reason why we started is because, look, we're growing. We want to help other businesses grow as well. And a lot of us don't have the financial means to do it. So if you look at a lot of the different marketing places, they're charging a tremendous amount. So
Yeah.
we've put up some packages together to help people. And then we're also going to be sponsoring a business once a month through the business cards that they send us to talk about the business. And we just want to keep it going. So with that, I say thank you. I want to wrap up.
Thank you.
Sistahship and
Thank
say
you,
for
ladies.
your support.
Oh, thank
Tony,
you.
welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so
Welcome
glad
back,
to be
Tony.
back. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for holding space. Seriously.
Hey, that's what we do.
Sharon?
That's what we do.
I thank you ladies for sharing with us today. I thank you for participating. For our silent audience that is listening, I just want you to know that we recognize you. We want you to know that we recognize you. We see you. But I just want you all to be mindful now in the different relationships you are in. You could help identify the relationships you would like to participate in. It's not one-sided.
Absolutely.
Ladies, for showing us, teaching us, and sharing your newness in this. That portion of vulnerability that you talked about, I think we each shared a little bit of that today. I think I shared a little bit more than others, but nonetheless, I thank you guys for participating. And we'll
Thanks
see
for
you on
having
the
me.
show.
I'm gonna do some more homework on this topic. So thank you, Sherry, for bringing this topic up. And it made me also think about some inside work that I need to do in terms of interdependent, codependent, all the type of relationships that are out there. So on that note, we are going to sign out on the Sistahship theme.
All right.
All right.
Oh, we got it. Say good night.
Let's talk about it.
Come on, Coco.
Sistahship, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Sistahship, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it.
Bye-bye.
Good night.